Okay, the word bombshell is overused, but this really is a bombshell moment. Paddy the Baddy Pimblett absolutely goes in on Ian cringe screech fest Paddy the Baddy Garry and destroys him. And not only that, I actually have a bigger bombshell story and article pulled up about Ian Garry that literally blew my mind. It's so shocking. So we'll get to Paddy calling him out, saying that he got panned out cold by Leon Edwards. We'll get to the bombshell revelation that a person actually sent me, so fair play to you for sending it. And before we do, if you could hit like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate that. Cheers. So we've seen the articles, they're filling up social media. Paddy the Baddy said yesterday in an interview with Sky Sports that Leon Edwards already knocked out Ian Garry.
Are you serious?
He can't see a match up there in the future. Extremely interesting. Let's have a look.
So who are we sticking Leon in with?
That's what I'm thinking. Who else is there at welterweight?
Ian Garry's makes you want Shavkat, Leon. He'll thank you for that.
Yeah, nah, Ian Garry doesn't deserve a title shot, lad. Come on. I mean, Leon's already knocked him out in training, so we don't need to know about that.
Was that what you've heard?
Yeah, that's what I've heard, like.
Knocked out?
Yeah.
Leon Shavkat.
There you have it, already knocked out. Interesting little transitional cut there by Sky Sports. It was almost as if there was more to that story, but they didn't want to show it. We don't know what this is referring to. We know that Ian Garry has gotten kicked off the mats at so many gyms now, and this plays into the story that I have in a while. So interesting. Is this true? Did Ian Garry actually get kicked off the gym because he got over aggressive, over screechy? Maybe there was a bit of herpes flying around and he brought it to the gym. Leon didn't like it. Boom, high kick, knocks him out. I know that in the past, maybe 8 or 9 months ago, Ian Garry did say that Leon Edwards kicked him so hard into the jaw that he had to get a root canal done. Maybe he's alluding to that, or maybe there's some inside stories going on here between Paddy Pimblett and Leon Edwards. Regardless of whatever you think, Paddy doesn't think he deserves a title shot. Nobody actually thinks he deserves a title shot.
Nobody cares.
But not only that, what are we not being told about this Leon Edwards Ian Garry situation? Paddy says a lot of interesting things in this interview. He talks about Colby Covington versus Leon Edwards, doesn't give Colby a single chance. No one that I've seen, unless it's some sort of like token pick, are talking about Colby Covington winning this fight. They're all actually talking about Leon Edwards moving up to 185 to fight the winner of Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland. And I think that we are getting to a stage with that sort of trash that it's like, people have said that if Colby wins, and not many people have said it, but I've heard 1 or 2, that he would be one of the worst champions because he's just going to hold up the division. He's going to be running around looking for big super fights with people that aren't in his division. He's almost going to be like a WWE star, and that he would never be a consistent active champion. But now we found ourselves with double champ this and double champ that, and now Leon Edwards says that there's nothing in the welterweight division that interests him.
Shut up, bitch!
So if we look at Leon's last couple of fights in the octagon and in terms of interest and what would excite people and even excite him, we see the eye poke against Belal Muhammad, who is the true #1 contender and deserves a shot at this title. It doesn't matter how he's gotten to this title contender spot, he's the guy. So Leon fights him, pokes him in the eye, ruins that fight. Then he fights a kind of a washed up Nate Diaz, someone who was jumping from 155 to 170, out of the game for 2 years and almost gets his head taken off. Then he gets mauled for 4.5 rounds by Usman, who was kind of on the way out. The knees were gone. A lot of people say that he's never going to be the same fighter again, even though his fight against Khamzat Chimaev was decent, and I thought that he won that fight. First fight, he dominated and got caught fainting, boom, into the forward, got panned out cold. Second fight, another contentious one. People will give it to Leon because he was the champion, but I think if you go back and watch that fight, so we're talking about Leon Edwards' last 4 fights, eye poke, jaw smacked by Nate Diaz, lost the first fight to Usman besides that high kick that panned him out, and the second fight a contentious one. So he doesn't find any interest in the welterweight division. He wants to move up straight away and fight Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland.
That's suspicious.
That doesn't bode well for him beating Colby and being this active champion that everybody thinks he's going to be. I think that he's getting carried away with himself with all these people jumping around getting belts left, right and centre, and he wants part of that. So nothing about him winning tells me that he's going to be this active, awesome champion that we all want and deserve in the welterweight division. Paddy talks a little bit about the backlash that he got after his last fight. He talks a little bit about depression and mental health, and people were asking for him to harm himself and all this sort of stuff. Nobody wants to see that. Disgusting behaviour. But we are playing victim cards here, right? Because a lot of that backlash was a result of the way you acted. You were stuffing 16 burgers into your mouth, asking Dana for a fight bonus.
You don't think it was a close fight at all? Not at all? What, just think people fight to the night or what?
after you knew and everybody else knew that you lost that fight to Jared Gordon. As I said in 1, 2, 3, 4 other videos about Paddy Pimblett, imagine if you had come out with a little bit of humility and said, busted my leg in the first round, very hard to stand on it, very hard to go forward, very hard to throw, I hold my hands up, that was a dodgy one. If he had said that, he would have legions and legions of fans. And when he's in these kind of mid moments, when he's not performing, when he's not Paddy the Baddy, and when he's not actually virtue signaling about mental health and all that sort of stuff, and it's just honesty, he's very likable. He's showing enormous respect for Tony Ferguson, that it's an honour that he wants to get in there with a future Hall of Famer. More of that, please. But is that going to happen? I'm not really sure, because in this interview he said, when I beat Tony Ferguson, you'll have all these fools back on the bandwagon. And it doesn't really show us that he's giving any respect to the fans or their opinions. It's kind of a narcissistic thing again. If he acts the bollocks again, he'll get called out again, just like everybody else. So that brings us to the bombshell article that I found yesterday about Ian Garry. Ian Garry's energy raised red flags with Gilbert Burns' psychologist ahead of Chimaev clash. What? Very, very interesting. And look, the picture says it all. While Garry's on-camera persona exudes energy, excitement and cringe and herpes, recent incidents have painted him in a different light, sparking controversy. Whoa, what controversy is that? Getting kicked out of your first gym, getting kicked out of Leon Edwards' gym, apparently getting your jaw taken off by Leon Edwards, if not once, then twice. Reports surface of an altercation with Leon Edwards' coach Dave Lovell, and Garry faced restrictions from training with the Team Renegade gym. Nicely worded. You got bounced. You got bounced like a basketball out of the gym. Like a bad smell, the door was opened and you were bayed out with a sweeping brush. Off you go. Additionally, old statements resurfaced detailing an expulsion from his initial gym, Team KF Martial Arts, citing behavioural issues. Called that out a couple of weeks ago as well. Interesting enough. Here's another intriguing chapter in Garry's journey emerged from a past interview, shedding light on a particular situation involving a teammate, Gilbert Burns. Despite their camaraderie at Killcliff FC, Burns' psychologist expressed reservations about Garry's exuberance, particularly before Burns faced Khamzat Chimaev. During an interview with MMA On Point, Garry recounted a cancelled dinner plan initiated by Burns' wife due to a psychologist's concern. Burns' psychologist deemed Garry's high energy level as potentially agitating for Burns, who was preparing for a crucial match against Chimaev. Garry, although taken aback, accepted the decision, stating he's about to fight Khamzat. Let him have all the energy he needs, let him go in there with the fire up his ass. The incident adds a unique twist on Garry's journey in the UFC, showcasing dynamics within fighter relationships and various perspectives on pre-fight preparations. As Garry continues to ascend in the welterweight division, his energetic approach both in and out of the octagon keeps fans intrigued and the UFC landscape dynamic. That's an extremely nice way of explaining that Ian Garry keeps on getting kicked out of gyms. People don't want to have dinner with you because you are so screechy, so annoying. I saw him coming up behind Gilbert Burns last week, like rubbing his shoulders and feeling him up and being all like, I miss you buddy, I miss you, oh man I miss you. It's like, bro, back off.
I have a lot of fucking energy. I get hyped on fight week. Like I want to fucking sing, I want to dance, I want to fight, I want to fucking just, I feel it in my fucking blood. Like it's pumping. Like I get so much adrenaline.
What the fuck is this?
Me and Gilbert were backstage. He's looking at me, I'm like fucking squeezing my opponent's arse, like rubbing the back of his shoulders, asking him how he is. He's like, man, you're fucking crazy. He's like,
what exactly is that? You know, I don't know how many times we have to say it over and over again. This is not it. This is not it. You don't squeeze people's ass. You don't rub their shoulders. You're not like, what the fuck?
I was like, let's go, like, I'll meet up later on, go get like, and he was like, I'd like a pasta or something. So we get back to the hotel, and about an hour later, his wife comes into my wife and says, Layla, I understand we were all going for dinner, but yeah, Gilbert's psychologist doesn't think it's a good idea to be around Ian Garry because he's just too much energy, and Gilbert's fucking agitated. And I'm like, fucking great, he's about to fight Khamzat. Let him have all the fucking energy he needs. Let him go in there with fucking fire up his arse. And then I'm like, fuck's sake.
So there you have it. Ian Garry is beyond upset that another fighter doesn't want to hang out with him. This seems to be a trend now. He's getting kicked out of gym left, right and centre. There's fighters that don't want you in their presence because of the screech. And you're still coping like, well, I agitated him to the point where he'll go in there and he'll perform. And I did my job. Almost like when you were kids and you were out playing and your parents would spot you hanging out with a kid that they didn't want you hanging out with. And they would say to you, like, you're not hanging out with them. And you're like, I'm not going telling them. So you get your mother to go and do it. That's what happened. Gilbert Burns' wife popped over to tell your wife, just like two mothers, that the two kids aren't allowed to hang out together anymore because your kid is annoying.
Fuck's sake.
So that's the bombshell story on Ian Garry. He possibly got knocked out once, if not twice, by Leon Edwards and shunned out of his gym. And in the last 6 months, Gilbert Burns' wife had to come to Gary's wife and say, the lads aren't allowed to play anymore. We don't want Gilbert hanging out with him. And they just make up a little excuse going like, yeah, he's energy and the psychologist. No, man, that wasn't it. He's just annoying. And he brings a negative energy. It's a mixture of the ADHD and the herpes and the screechy voice. And that energy touching, feeling you. You can't have that going into a big fight. No one's going to want this dude in their gym. Let me know your thoughts down below. Like, share, subscribe, and I really appreciate you. Cheers.